Mi nombre es Karen Mejía y hago parte de la tecnología de costos de análisis y presupuestos. Y hoy, para empezar con la actividad de la semana número 13, elegí la opción número 2, donde voy a leer un artículo de la revista Science Direct titulado Social Cognition in Adolescence, Social Rejection and Theory of Mind. Bueno, entonces aquí es como el resumencito, pero ese lo vamos a hablar al final. Human adolescence is a period of physical, psychological, and social transition between childhood and adulthood. While it's difficult to define the precise onset and end point of adolescence, it has been described as beginning with the onset of puberty and ending with the stable commitment to an adult role. For the purpose of this article, adolescence will be broadly defined as the second decade of life. While there are undoubtedly cultural influences at play, adolescence is often characterized by an increase in emotional lability and risk-taking behaviors. Epidemiological data also suggests that adolescence is a key time for the onset of physiological disorders characterized by emotional dysregulation. These include internalized link disorders such as depression and anxiety, as well as externalizing disorders such as conduct disorder. It has been suggested that this vulnerability results from ongoing brain development occurring during adolescence, particularly in brain regions responsible for high-level cognitive abilities such as planning, decision-making, and regulation emotions. In the last 15 years, the availability of safe and non-invasive neuroimaging methods such as magnetic resonance imaging has revolutionized the study of adolescence. It is now known that significant development occurs in the brains. Gray and white matter in that those brain regions which are latest to mature are those responsible for complex human behaviors, notably the prefrontal cortex and temporal parietal regions. Different brain regions have also been shown to mature at different rates and with differing trajectories. For example, show it 2008 found that evolutionarily ordered parts of the brain, such as the limbic system, mature in a simpler linear trajectory than regions that evolved more recently, such as the neocortex. Neurotransmitter systems also continue to develop. For example, the dopaminergic systems undergoes substantial remodeling during adolescence. Research is currently engaged in further linking specific adolescent behaviors with particular patterns of brain development. Several recent models of a link between adolescents' brain and behavior have proposed the idea of a development mismatch between parts of the brain involved in processing emotional and reward signals, including regions such as the amygdala and ventral striatum, and those responsible for regulation this response. During adolescence, it is hypothesized that development of regulatory regions lags behind that of emotional processing regions, rendering the adolescent brain a fast car with poor brakes. Although its formulation is undoubtedly oversimplified, it provides a useful framework and generates predictions that can be tested using methods such as functional magnetic resonance imaging. In addition to emotional processing regulation and behavior, it is also important to consider the role of social development in adolescents. Indeed, the social environment is crucial in shaping the adolescent's brain. The role of peers is vital, with evidence suggesting that the might adolescents individuals spend more time with their peers than with their parents. Also important is the increasing ability of adolescents to think abstractly about themselves and other people. This means they have a more sophisticated understanding of complex social phenomena such as reputation, social hierarchy, personality traits in how others see them than they did at an early age. Aggressions or bullying, with one study reporting that 27.4 percentage adolescent girls have been excluded or ignored by peers at school. Boys might also use relation aggression, but girls are more likely to do so and to be upset when they are a victim. Self-report studies have suggested that adolescents might be more sensitive to social rejection than both an adult and younger children in everyday life. However, However, the social cognitive and neural process underlying this effect have only recently been investigated experimentally. As a starting point, it's important to establish whether adolescent sensitivity to social rejection can be replicated in the laboratory. If so, this will suggest that the phenomenon is not an artifact of adolescent social environment. In recent years, the cyberball paradigm has been used extensively to experimentally investigate responses to social rejection in a wide range of populations. Cyberball is a computer game in which all participants are told that they are playing a game of catch over the internet with two other players, and that the researchers are interested in a mental visualization ability during the game. In fact, the actions of our players are pre-programmed by the experimenter to either include or exclude the participants in a systemic way. Reactions to the manipulations can be measured for a review. Cyberball was used to test adolescents' responses to social rejection, focused on female only, in a study by Sebastian Bing, Millie Williams, and Blakemore. 26 early adolescents aged 11 to 25 mild adolescents aged 14 and 15 and uh, to 26 adult female controls were first included and then rejected in successive rounds of cerebral. Self-reported mood and anxiety levels were measured at baseline. After inclusion and finally after rejection, conditions order was not randomized in order to avoid possible negative spoilers effect from the rejection to the inclusion condition. Relative to adult females, but adolescents groups reported lower overall mood following rejection. The early adolescents also reported greater anxiety. The mild adolescents did report high anxiety following rejection, but anxiety was also high following inclusion relative to baseline. One possible conclusion for this finding is that social interaction in general can be anxiety provoking at this age. Indeed, the mean age of onset for social phobia occurs in mild adolescents at age 15. In contrast, all groups reported that they had been excluded by the other players to a similar degree and reported that the experience as feeling quite real. This suggests that at least adolescent girls, respond more strongly and negatively to social rejection than do adults, even when there are no objective differences in the perception of their rejection episode. Social rejection in adolescents. Um, Given this ongoing development in both affective, emotional, and social domains, several researchers have investigated whether development mismatch resulting in poor emotion regulation could interact with social cognitive development to account for social behaviors commonly seen in adolescents. One uh, phenomenon that captures the overlap between social and emotional process, particularly with sensitivity to social rejection in adolescents. Social rejection or or ostracism refers to being deliberately ignored or excluded by an individual or a group. In adolescence, social rejection is often used as a form of relational. Is that this region is involved in regulating negative emotions such as responses to social rejection and that this region functions differently in adolescents compared with adults. This hypothesis was investigated in a fMRI study comparing neural responses during severe ball in 19 adolescents, female age 14 and 16 and 16 matched adults, Sebastian. Regardless of age, all participants activate a network of regions involved in social evaluation and negative emotion. This included the medial prefrontal cortex, ventral anterior cingulated cortex, and medial orbitofrontal cortex. However, of most interest was group difference in right ventrolateral prefrontal cortex. The adult group showed a greater responsive in this region during rejection compared with inclusion, while the adolescent group showed no difference between rejection and inclusion conditions. It might be that this lack of a difference between conditions reflects a restored ability to flexibly engage right BLPFC in emotion regulation as needed in this case during social rejection. In support of this interpretation, adolescents report greater rejection-related distress than did adults, as in the behavior study above, although it is worth noting that no inverse correlation was found between distress and right BLPFC response in either adolescents or adults. Such as results will have provide stronger evidence that right BLPC response was functionality involved in regulation rejection related distress. However, another study used cerebral and fMRI with 23 adolescents, both males and females, indeed find a negative correlation between distress and right BLPVC activation, the replication of affect across two studies. Lends weight to the theory that this region is involved in regulating distress and that its lack of engagement reflects the regulation of rejection related distress in adolescents relative to adults. Results from the above studies indicate that adolescents respond to explicit social rejection differently from adults at both the behavioral and the neural levels, although participants are not aware that the experimental aim is to measure response to social rejection during cyberbullying. They are at least explicitly aware they are engaged in a social interaction and that at some points they are included and that others excluded. However, an important aspect of emotion regulations related to how we respond to implicit emotional cues and in particular how will executive functions such as cognitive control, response inhibition, attention, work memory, conflict monitoring, and decision making can be maintained in the presence of implicit emotional information. To investigate this in relation to rejection in adolescents and adult participants were scanned while completing a rejection-related emotional stroke task. Individual words were displayed on the computer screen and participants indicated the ink color in which the word written red, blue, green, yellow. Word meanings were either rejection related, loser, acceptance related, friend, or neutral table. Participants were instructed to concentrate on the task, indicating the word color, writing down word meaning, however, an extensive literature on the emotional states show that emotional word meanings interfere with participants' ability to perform the task, resulting in both increasing reaction times to emotional, in particular negatively placed words, and increasing neural response in regions involved in cognitive control. Intensely, a comparison of fMRI response during the emotional trope strikes between adolescents and adults um, response revealed a group difference in the same right BLPPC regions identified in the study's asyncs cyberball. The pattern of results was also similar. Adults shows an increased response in this region when processing rejection related words compared with neutral. For a detailed discussion of these studies, this is interesting as it suggests that it's erroneous to think of responses to rejection in AS C as being either fully preserved or deficient. Adolescents with ASC clearly subjectively perceive social rejection as distressing despite difference in processing at the neutral level. Signs individuals with ASC are particularly likely to experience bullying and social rejection. It makes sense to focus on bullying prevention in this group as well as on helping these individuals to develop effective coping strategies. Bueno, voy a dejar esto ahí, yo ya me lo terminé de leer y entonces básicamente este artículo se enfoca en cómo el cerebro de los adolescentes se desarrolla en relación con su comportamiento social y emocional. En primer lugar, se discute la sensibilidad al rechazo social, pues que es la tendencia de los adolescentes a sentirse muy impactados por el rechazo de los mismos, o sea, de otros adolescentes o de personas de su misma edad pues, con los que compartan su entorno. Los estudios sugieren que esta sensibilidad está relacionada con cambios en ciertas áreas del cerebro que controlan las emociones. En pocas palabras, en otras palabras, los adolescentes pueden ser más sensibles al rechazo social debido a los cambios de sus cerebros. Además, se aborda también la teoría de la mente, que se refiere a la capacidad de entender los pensamientos y las intenciones de los demás. Y según la investigación, el cerebro de los adolescentes continúa desarrollando la capacidad de integrar información emocional al tomar decisiones basadas en la teoría de la mente. Esto significa que los adolescentes están aprendiendo a comprender mejor las emociones y pensamientos de los demás a medida que su cerebro sigue madurando. En resumen, un mayor resumen, este artículo destaca que el cerebro de los adolescentes sigue experimentando cambios significativos en términos de cómo procesan la información social y emocional, lo cual puede ayudar a explicar ciertos comportamientos propios de la adolescencia. Ese conocimiento puede ser muy valioso para comprender mejor a los adolescentes y apoyar su desarrollo emocional y social, que ya vimos que incluyen demasiadas cosas. Bueno, no, sería básicamente esto.